When I know what some of my primary motivations are and what some of my primary motivations are not, I can help myself, I can facilitate myself and guide myself into greater and greater success. Now, when I first encountered the Enneagram personally, I'm going to be honest with you, I was very resistant to it. And I was a bit rebellious about it. Not only because it was my own mother teaching me about it, which I'm sure was a bit of a factor, but because I thought to myself, I don't want to be put in a box. I don't want somebody boxing me up and telling me, this is who you are, and this is how you are, and this is what you do. I don't like those kind of systems that appear to limit me or keep me from being something different than I want to be. And yet, what I learned through studying this system and continuing to go to workshops with my mother is that we are already in a box and don't even know it. And that the trick is to learn the box we're in so that we can take the calculable risks we need and want to take in order to reach out of our box and become more successful. One of the most profound things that my mother has said about this system that I want to repeat today is that our personality is often choking out our essence. So what that means is who we've learned to become, sometimes adaptable, sometimes maladaptable, sometimes learned skills that we can do but that exhaust us, that chokes out our essence. And when we are successful and flowing and in the groove, we have learned to access that essence of who we really are. And what this system does is helps us to access that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the history of the Enneagram because it's a fascinating mix of ancient symbols, symbolism, and modern development. So it's a 9-point system. As you can see, the word Enneagram comes from the Greek, meaning 9 and figure, and so there are 9 key points. The symbol has its roots in Pythagorean mathematics. Pythagorean mathematics. Got to practice that word. Some scholars do see connections to ancient spiritual traditions like Sufism and early Christian mysticism with it. And in the modern world, the Enneagram, as we know it today, emerged in the 20th century through George Gurdjieff, mostly, a spiritual teacher who reintroduced the symbol and the points to the West, but used it differently than it had been being used and has been working with it along with other teachers. I believe that it took hold first here in the West at Berkeley, as the students encountered this with Gurdjieff, who was a professor there, and began to take off and began to learn about themselves and learn about their learning styles and learn about who they were in the world. And so it was very powerful. It has been used mostly by the Jesuit priests and the Jesuits who taught it to the people that they worked with. And so it has been around for a very, very long time. It's a popular tool for personal understanding and personal growth, and its modern application in psychology and personal assessment continues to grow. In the last few years, we've just seen a huge upswell of podcasts and authors and teachers and people coming forward to teach and support people in learning about the Enneagram. Ian Morgan Crone, in The Road Back to You, which is an Enneagram journey into self-discovery, says the Enneagram is a tool that awakens your compassion for people just as they are, not the people we wish they could become, so our lives could become easier. This is one of the things that I will say, just a little tangent that's not necessarily about the workplace, but I wanted to talk today about the workplace and in life. I have discovered in my relationships with people that I work with and people that I share my life with, to understand this Enneagram system, boy, it has helped me really practice that first rule in the 5 agreements about not taking things personally. Because I understand now, as I have one husband who is a perfectionist, that his efforts to make things perfect are not him trying to irritate me. And also, as I've learned about my coworker, Reverend Josh, and where he is in the Enneagram, it's helped me understand him as we work together. Now, we believe in the system I want to say, as I mention all that, we do not ever type each other. I don't ever look at someone and say, well, they're obviously, And the reason that we don't do that, and here is one of the key things, I said it before, I will say it again, and I will probably repeat it. The Enneagram is not about how we behave. It's not about how we look. It's not about what we do. It's about what motivates us. So, for example, my husband, the one, is a perfectionist. He likes things to be done well and look good. I live in the realm of the 3 on the Enneagram, which is the performer. I know you'll be surprised. Those of you who know me that I'm a 3, but I'm a 3, and I like things to look good. I like to look good. I like things to. I'm productive. I go fast. I get a lot done. I'm moving and moving, and I always want things to look good. We both want things to look good. So if you looked at our behavior, you might be tempted to type us based on our behavior. But it's never about the behavior, it's about the motivation. Why does my one husband want things to look good? Because that's the right thing. Things are either done right or they're done wrong. Why does Michelle want things to look good? Because I want everything to look good. I like it better that way. Isn't it beautiful? Totally different motivations. So when we work with people, we help them to find themselves in the system. And so there are lots of tools out there, right? Have any of you ever used some of the tools, popular ones that are available? The Myers-Briggs. We've all done that, right? Great system and used a lot in business. The Emergenetics. We used Emergenetics around here at Mile High Church for a long time, the 4 colors, and it helped us understand each other. Absolutely. Working Genius, a great system. My friend Carolyn teaches very well with companies and organizations to learn about ourselves and to do team building and to support each other as teams. Cosmo quizzes, right? We do all these things to get to know each other, to get to know ourselves, to understand ourselves. And I put Cosmo quizzes in there because I think I read some research that said that the Cosmo quizzes were one of the most popular elements of the Cosmo magazine. Why is that? Because we are hungry to know what makes us us. Who are we? How can we best show up? What are the things that we can do that can support us? And so it's really important for us to move through an understanding of self-awareness in some system or another. Now, how do we become the type that we are in the Enneagram? What I've learned is that the theory is that it's a combination of a genetic predisposition, that they believe that there is some genetic influence, and then our experience in life that helps to form and fashion us into the type that we ultimately become. Some people I've heard say, well, when I was a kid, I was a type 3, but then I grew up and now I'm a type 7. In our system, our belief is it doesn't work like that. There is a number that we always lead with, that we develop and we become, and we will always lead with it. We will live in that space, but we do have relationships to a number of other numbers in the system, and we also have connection to all of the numbers, so that can be confusing for people. And so it helps us to help other people learn about themselves in a very specific way. One of the things that has arisen because of the popularity of the Enneagram is that there are online tests everywhere. And people often will tell me, well, I took an online test. And you can do that. So far, we haven't really discovered one that we feel is truly accurate. And the system that I have been taught in, we lean into what we call the oral tradition of teaching people the Enneagram. So if we want to discover our type and utilize it in our life, what we would do is go to somebody and do what we call a typing interview. And in the typing interview, we ask a bunch of very key questions. How are you about this? How do you handle this? How do you do this? What do you think of that? How has this showed up in your life? And it's interesting to note, especially with an audience like this, who've probably done a lot of personal growth work, that we often have you look at yourself prior to the age of 20. Because as we've gotten older, many of us have have worked on ourselves and have healed our past, have forgiven, and that's all great to do. And to discover the number that most influences us or that we lead with usually harkens us back to before we started to do some of that work. That we could see that when we were a teenager, what was really important to us was that people thought well of us. What were we obsessed with? What was the most important thing to us? So often those early formative years lead us to our number, but an Enneagram consultant helps you to learn where are you in this system. And then as you explore that and deepen into that and understand that and begin to work with that and begin to see, in my experience, for every person that I've ever seen get typed, there's an awakening like, oh my gosh, that's why it's been so hard for me to do that, have relationships or grow my business. That's why it's so hard for me to actually sit down and do the bookkeeping that I have to do to be successful. That's why it's so hard for me to talk with people. There's an awakening with that self-awareness. And then there's also an opportunity to look at how to best utilize the skills within those numbers to then become more successful. And what I also like is that in every number, there exists the more functional and dysfunctional elements of it. So as a 3, I can fall into a horrible need to impress people at times that I have to really manage. And I manage much better. I often tell a story that, and I'm going to tell you all the numbers in just a minute and what all the key qualities are of them. But as a 3, when I first started in ministry at the Huntington Beach Church, and some of you probably heard this story, I was very young. I was 27 years old. And they did not believe in my ability to be a speaker at all. And so they would not let me speak at the church. And so I did some other things. And then eventually I got to speak at the Sunday evening service on occasion. And then that Dr. Roger guy decided to leave Huntington Beach and come back here to Denver to be here with you all in 1993. And they really needed Sunday speakers. And they were pretty much asking anybody who could breathe except for me, because I was too young. I was so young. And they would look at me and say, oh, you're too young. You're just too young to speak. It was kind of a bit of an age discrimination, quite frankly. And eventually they couldn't find somebody one Sunday, and they were very desperate. And so they begged me to guest speak. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And so I did it. And I had to go be coached by the former senior minister, which was fine. And I did this talk. And I said something negative. This was back in the days when our vice president was Quayle. And he was really going after Murphy Brown as a single mother. And how the traditional family unit needs to be a father and a mother and children. And I thought this was just ridiculous. And so it was Mother's Day. And so I said something sarcastic. Like, unlike our current vice president, I believe that families can be formed by any group of people, and began to talk a little bit about that. Well, unbeknownst to me, there was a huge Quayle fan in the audience, and that next day, I think it was Monday or Tuesday actually, a letter came to me complaining about my jab at the vice president. And that was fine. I was a little upset that I got the letter, but then I noticed that it said copies, and it said every board member's name. And I knew that there were folders downstairs for every board member, and I went down there, and sure enough, all the letters that he'd written to them were in their folders. And I panicked. I panicked because I was afraid that I was going to be seen as a horrible speaker because of this letter. So I stole all the letters. I pulled them out of the folders, and I ran up to my office, and I put them in my desk, and I sat there, and I shook for a while. And luckily, because of this spiritual teaching, that intuitive voice said, Michelle, put the letters back. And so I took a deep breath, and I went down, and I put the letters back. And it turned out, ultimately, it was okay. The president of our board came to me later, and I said, did you get the letter? And she said, oh, yeah, I got the letter. Kind of crazy, huh? She said, he's a public figure. You have a right to jab at him if you want to. That's okay. And so nobody had any energy about it. But I tell that story to say that was an intense moment of me being a dysfunctional 3, of needing so much for someone to like me or approve of me that I would be out of integrity. I'm grateful that I found my integrity, and it didn't take very long, thankfully. However, those are the kind of things that happen to all of us, that when we get in them, we're caught in our number. We're caught in the pain point or the challenge or blind spots. We talk a lot about the blind spots of each number. And it helps us tremendously to find ourselves and to explore ourselves and see these blind spots and see these ways that we could grow and become more functional as the number that we are. No number is better than another, absolutely. My mother is Linda Frazee. It is a deeper dive than many of the other personality systems, Enneagram she's talking about, widely used. One of the primary principles is that you are the leading expert about yourself. Therefore, even though there are assessments or paragraphs of descriptions about each type, ultimately, you must decide for yourself which numbers you identify with most. And so that is part of what we teach. When we do a typing, we don't leave the typing interview with me going, oh, Steve, you are a 3. No, that's not how it works. We usually leave a typing appointment sometimes with 3 or 4 numbers, and I say to you, go explore these numbers. I'm going to send you a book. I'm going to have you read up, go online. And then if you want more support, come back to me and we'll talk some more and I'll help you find yourself. But we do not type people, we don't tell them what their number is. We do not ever assess you. And so some people, it takes them a few months to really discover themselves, and it's ultimately worth it. Because when we find ourselves in the Enneagram system, then it's like things just continue to open for us. Bless you. Did you sneeze? Bless you. So here are the 9 numbers, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and they're beautifully put together. Let's talk about all the types. I want to go through all of the types now. There are 3 major sections in that when we go back to that. So the 3 major sections that exist for us are up at the top, the 8, 9, and 1 are considered the body or instinct types. The 2, 3, and 4 are considered the heart types. And the 5, 6, 7 are considered the head types. This is one way that we can often discover ourselves. For example, I've heard someone who struggled to find themselves in the system wonder if are they a 9 or maybe they're a 4, and they're not sure. But when we talk about how their body responds to things, someone who's a body type told me something really powerful once. They said that when I hear bad news, my whole body just goes, or they might feel ill, nauseous, somebody whose body reacts to their environment. Someone who's a heart type might have a real strong sense of feelings when they hear news that their heart just goes, Somebody who's a head type might think a lot about it. Well, why would that happen? Why would somebody say that? I wonder how that occurred. And they get up in their head. So these 3 distinct centers begin to help us find ourselves when we're trying to discover it. So that might help you right then. When we do an Enneagram workshop, we often do a process to help people identify, at least are they a head type, a body type, or a heart type, which then can help it to narrow down. And so let's talk about that first center, the instinct types. They are focused on control and taking action. We're going to go to body types first. So we're going to start with the 8. Each number has a descriptor. You might find different descriptors in different literature. These are the ones that we've landed on. We call the 8 the protector or the boss. They often have really big energy. They come into a room and you kind of know they're there. In their most dysfunctional energy, they're pretty bossy. They can be the one who's yelling at people and screaming at people. In their more functional energy, they're just someone who's almost always in charge. Often an 8 will be in a group of people that they don't even know, and people will just navigate to them and say, well, you be in charge. And they don't even know them, but that 8 has such a I am in charge kind of energy. And so they seek empowerment. They want to experience empowerment and feel empowered, and what they avoid is weakness. And in their dysfunction, they often don't like weak people. People who are weak really frustrate them. Don't be weak, don't be weak, be strong. And that will often be an 8's advice. Be strong. And then we go to the 9. The 9 is called the peacemaker. The 9 seeks harmony. The 9 is absolutely all about harmony. The 9 wants everyone to get along. The 9 is often the person who will broker conversations between people who are having conflict. The 9 will be the one who will, if there's upset in a situation, will be right there to see if they can help create some peace for people. And that they are very much avoiding conflict. They're not comfortable with conflict. If there's conflict in a space, they just want to get it resolved. These are just some broad descriptors so that you can kind of begin to see where these numbers go. And then the next one, of course, is the 1 that I've talked about, the perfectionist, who is seeking integrity. Things are right or wrong. What's the right way? What's the wrong way? And if that's where your mind goes a lot, as you look around the world and look around at people, you might be a 1. I'm like Jeff Foxworthy, right? You might be a redneck. You might be a 1. A 1 avoids error. They don't like errors for themselves. They don't like other people's errors. They're always in that avoidance, keeping things from being wrong. So this is the first section. And then we go to the feeling-based types, which are the heart types. The heart types, let's begin with the 2. The 2 is called the helper. The 2 is usually the one who can help you with that. Do you need any help with that? Yeah, sure, I'll come help you move. Yeah, sure, I'll help you with your kid. Yeah, sure, I'll help you with that. Can I help you? Because they gain connection and value out of helping people. And they seek that help, is literally what they're seeking is connection. They're trying to connect, and that's their modus for finding connection with other people, is that they can help. They're often very proud that they can help people, that they're helpful people. And what they avoid often in doing this are their own needs. They will push their own needs aside to help you. And that might be great for you, but it's not so great for them. The next one is the performer. I said there were no best ones on the Enneagram, but this is the best one. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. The performer seeks productivity, and that is true. I'm always wanting to be as productive as possible, always looking to be as productive as possible. Often when I leave a job, they have to hire 2 or 3 people to replace me because I just take on stuff easily. Like, I can do that, I can do that, I can get that done. And so the 3s are not only performing like you talk about on stage or in front of people, which has always been comfortable for me since I was a child, but it also is about performing well in that which I have been assigned to do. Important to me. But what we are avoiding then is failure. Failure is a big sticking point for us. To fail can be very discouraging to 3s, very discouraging. And then the 4. The 4 is often known as the romantic or the individualist. They are seeking uniqueness. 4s like to be unique and special. They don't like to be like everybody else. If a huge part of what motivates you is, I want to be different. See, the 3 is, I want to be the best. The 4 is, I want to be different. I want to be unique. You might be a 4. And what they're avoiding, of course, is ordinariness. They don't want to be ordinary. They don't want anybody to think that what they're doing or who they are is ordinary. They don't like hearing, you're just like everybody else. No, I'm not. I'm unique and special. They don't like that. And 4s are also very much in touch with their emotions. If you know somebody who you've said at times seems a little overly dramatic with their emotions, they might be a 4. And it's not that 4s are all overly dramatic. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they're just very much in tune with their emotions, and they can access their emotions very easily. Let's go to the thinking-based types then, the head types. Beginning with the 5. The 5 is the observer. The 5 is often if there is a group of people gathered around, the 5 will be not in the group of people, but will be observing the groups of people. The 5 is not usually the joiner. They are seeking knowledge. They like to be proud of what they know, and they go to the nth degree to be knowledgeable and be an expert in the areas that they want to be an expert. And they want to avoid depletion. 5s are very much concerned with their resources. Key resources for a 5 are time, energy, and money. So if you ask a 5 to do something, would you like to go Saturday to the aquarium? Well, how much time will we take? How much money will it cost? Let me think about what I've been doing all week and see if I have enough energy. A 5 will often, that's their first go-to in considering whether they want to do something in their life. The 6 is they call it the questioner. The 6s are seeking preparedness. The 6 battles a lot of energy around fear. The 6s, their superpower is that they can look at a spreadsheet, or they can look at a business, or they can look at a situation and they can go, this is good until you get there. Then you're really at risk right down there. Risk assessment, awesome for 6s. They're really good at it. And they get a bad rap because they'll often, especially in this environment where we all want to be happy, and a 6 comes in and says, hey, you know, if you keep setting the camera up that way, it's going to fall down and break. And everybody goes, oh, don't be so negative, right? But we need our 6s. 6s have a voice in our environments that they're really good. Sometimes they are overly obsessed because they're really caught up in their fear. Absolutely, just like all of us can have that happen. But a lot of times they are a powerful voice of reason because they're so tuned into preparedness. 6s can be phobic or counterphobic, meaning that fear just pushes them away or that fear charges them up. So we find that a lot of people who are 6s are first responders. Police officers, people in the military, because they're sometimes some of the most courageous people who will go out and fight fires, who will go out and rescue people, who will go out and fight for our country. So that often is the case for 6s. They are avoiding helplessness. They don't like to be or feel helpless. And the last one, we've saved the best for last, the 7, the enthusiast. The 7s are very fun, joyful people to be around. 7s are seeking options. They're always they're up for, hey, what can we do today? Can we do 5 different things instead of 4 different things? I want to go here. I want to go there. They don't like being pigeonholed. If you say to a 7, you can have this or that. Well, what are my other options? Right? Because they really want to have options. They love options because they love to have choice and love to have fun. And what they're avoiding often is pain. Sometimes 7s have a really hard time if they are in pain or their loved ones are in pain. They have a hard time confronting or talking about painful situations because that's not fun, right? That's not near as fun. So it can be a powerful practice. And they also can be very, they can sometimes people will call them the gluttons of the universe, and we're not talking food, but they just want to do everything. So they want to do everything. I want to have every experience. And so to other people, it can be like, wow, okay, enough now, all right? So this is the basic system. And so if you are interested in it, when you know yourself through the lens of these eyes, I assert, as I've said before, you can be more successful in your business. You can manage your energy more powerfully. You can manage your workflow. You can learn how you can reach out to the people that you want to reach out to serve in your business. You can have greater power in your relationships, greater satisfaction in your relationships. You can know yourself and other people much better. And so if you're interested in this, I do typing interviews where like I said, I can sit down with you and do an initial typing interview and talk with you about the work you do and how understanding this can support you in being better at what it is you do in the world. I also work with teams. I've been working with a lot of other people in helping them in relationships, and with their kids. We've got some resources for Enneagram with our kids. So lots of ways that we can do this. And as I said, there are lots of podcasts. If you don't want to take the time to sit down with a typing interview with me, you can go out and learn a lot from podcasts, learn a lot on the internet. And I thank you so much for letting me come and present this. I am going to be doing a workshop here at Mile High Church, my last plug, on June 20th and 21st. The 20th is a Friday night from 6 to 9. The 21st is all day Saturday. You can come to either one or both. The Friday night will be a more comprehensive introduction to the Enneagram. And then how we teach people about these numbers is that we do panels. So what we'll do, Friday night we'll do one panel, and then all day Saturday we'll panel all the other numbers. We'll bring like 3 or 4 threes up here in front, and my mother or I will interview them and have them talk about what is it like to be a 3? What is it like to be a 2? What is it like to be a 5? And you hear yourself in their interviews. And you hear your loved ones and your work colleagues, and you hear your parents often or your siblings in their conversation. And so it's a really fun way to get to know about the Enneagram system. So you can sign up for that on the Mile High website if you're interested in it. Thanks so much. Happy BHS.